The what? The temptation? Oh, ooh. Well, it depends on what they are, I guess.
Depende de qué tentación es.
You know, if it's to have a block of
Si
chocolate
es comerse un bloque de chocolate
or to rob a bank.
o robar un banco.
I mean, I don't know what these temptations
No
are.
tengo idea qué tipo de tentaciones tienes tú.
Okay? The thing is, if it's something that you don't want to do,
Si es algo que en realidad tú no quieres hacer.
or it's something you do want to
O
do,
si es algo que sí quieres hacer.
but you don't like the
Pero no te
consequences,
gustan las consecuencias.
you have to see why you want to do it.
Tienes que ver por qué lo quieres hacer.
You know, often we do
A menudo
things
hacemos cosas
because they take us into a place of
que nos llevan a un
suffering.
lugar de sufrimiento.
It doesn't make us feel good about ourselves.
Bien con nosotros mismos.
Maybe we feel good in that moment,
Sentimos bien en ese momento,
but then the
pero
consequences
las consecuencias
take us into a place of
nos llevan
suffering.
a un lugar de sufrimiento.
So we have to see
Entonces tenemos que ver
why we're not loving
por qué
ourselves.
no nos estamos amando a nosotros mismos.
Because whatever takes us into
Lo
suffering
que sea que nos está llevando a sufrir
is a place where we're not loving
ese es un
ourselves.
lugar donde no nos estamos amando.
So, where is the love?
Entonces, ¿dónde está el amor?
The love's inside of
El amor
us.
está dentro nuestro.
You know, we're always grasping externally,
Estamos como aferrándonos a lo externo,
but we're trying to fill
en
something
realidad estamos tratando de llenar algo
because it feels empty.
porque se siente vacío.
But anything illusionary
Cualquier cosa ilusoria
or
o
impermanent,
impermanente,
for want of a better word,
pero es un término mejor,
doesn't fill that emptiness.
no llena ese tipo de vacío.
So we have to do something different.
Entonces tenemos que hacer algo diferente.
And that's what this system's for.
Para eso justamente está este sistema.
You know, we always attach ourselves to
Siempre nos
addictions
apegamos a las adicciones.
because we're trying to fill an emptiness
Tratamos de llenar un vacío
or a place that we don't
o
deserve.
un lugar en el que no merecemos.
And ultimately we suffer.
Y en última instancia terminamos sufriendo.
But if we fill it with
Lo
love,
llenamos con amor,
love consciousness, we start to let go of these things.
comenzamos a dejar este tipo de cosas.
And we see
Y podemos ver
that they have no value.
en realidad no valen nada.
They're just, you know, like fragile.
Son como muy frágiles.
And we find something much bigger,
Y podemos encontrar algo más grande.
something more beautiful,
Más hermoso.
something
Algo
permanent,
que sea permanente.
which is unconditional
Eso
love.
es amor incondicional.
And that's exactly what the system's
Es
for,
exactamente para lo que es este
to find that unconditional love of self.
amor incondicional hacia uno mismo.
Because it doesn't matter what you get here,
Y en realidad no importa qué es lo que consigas aquí afuera.
without this,
Sin tenerlo interno,
it doesn't sustain you.
no te va a sostener.
It's never permanent,
Nunca va a ser permanente.
it's fragile.
Va a ser frágil.
I want to know what the temptations are.
Yo quisiera saber las tentaciones.
It's okay. You don't have to tell me here, later.
Aquí públicamente, pero después podría.
Go, go.
This is my second mega. Last year when I left, I thought, if my life is going to be like this, I'm going to be like this, will be wonderful. I didn't think that life was going to have a turn. My mom with dementia, after 47 years, she came to live with me. I'm separated with 3 kids. I started a relationship and I ruined because I started being angry with everything and being sad with everything. And I did marathons of Darshans, and I was every day unifying. And I was listening to you saying that we have to let go and to trust, to embrace what we feel and move through. I focus in coming again for you to tell me how.
You know, the thing is, you're going through a huge
La
change.
cosa es que estás atravesando un cambio enorme.
And it's good that you're here.
Es buenísimo que hayas venido.
But you know, everything's happening around you.
Pero todo está sucediendo a tu alrededor.
And the thing
La
is,
cosa es
you have to heal your
que
life.
tienes que sanar tu vida.
You know, you think it's to do with
Tú
this,
crees que tiene que ver con esto,
or
o
this,
con esto,
or
otro,
this.
o con esto,
But
otro.
it's much bigger than that.
Pero es mucho más que eso.
It's a root stress of
Es un
separation
estrés raíz de separación
from you.
de ti mismo.
And you're
Y
unifying,
estás unificando.
you're watching Darshans, you're moving stress,
Estás moviendo el estrés.
and you're healing very
Estás
fast.
sanando muy rápidamente.
You've had external things that are
cosas
provoking,
externas provocando,
and it takes
y
time.
lleva tiempo.
But you are healing.
Pero estás sanando,
You are healing.
estás sanando.
And in one moment,
Y en un momento determinado
you'll expand.
vas a expandirte
And you go, oh,
y vas a ir.
oh, now I'm starting to find that.
Ahora estoy empezando a encontrar.
Now I'm starting to feel good.
Ahora estoy empezando a sentirme bien.
But all that rage
Pero toda esa rabia,
and the sadness,
esa tristeza,
that's a story of a
es la
lifetime.
historia de una vida.
It's not just what's
No es
happening now.
simplemente por aquello que esté sucediendo ahora.
So it's a process.
Así que es un proceso.
And the thing is, the system's a fast
Y la
process.
cosa es que este sistema es un proceso rápido.
So it's like explosive sometimes,
Es a
no?
veces como explosivo.
It's like... So you just have to keep going
Tienes que seguir adelante
and changing.
y cambiar.
Yeah? But you're doing it.
Pero lo estás haciendo.
And keep thinking the facets
Y sigue
too.
pensando con ojos abiertos las facetas.
Try not to be so
Intenta
dense.
no estar tan denso con lo que sucede.
It's like you're very hard with
Porque eres
yourself
muy duro
too.
contigo.
It's like I should have healed yesterday.
Tendría que haberme sanado ayer ya.
Yeah? And you've got to be a little bit more
Tienes que ser
patient.
un poquitín más paciente.
Yeah? Good.
Just what do you want to share with us? Because I'm sure you started as a baby also, no? In that path. Claro, claro. And how was that you got to universal consciousness of love? Which one was your process? How was your process, whatever you want to talk about it?
Okay, sure. I'll give you a summary, no?
Voy a hacer un breviario de la cosa.
You know, the system
Este sistema
is exactly what I did.
es exactamente cada paso que yo hice.
For 6 months,
Durante 6 meses
I started going in.
empecé a ir hacia adentro.
All the time, all the time, all the time.
Todo el tiempo.
Eyes closed, walking around,
Caminando por ahí.
focusing on consciousness, full of dramas,
Llena de drama,
full of stress,
llena de estrés.
crying all the time,
Lloraba todo el tiempo,
thinking I was going to die.
pensando que me iba a morir.
Because I was very dramatic,
Yo
no?
era muy dramática.
I was almost Latin.
Era casi latina yo.
And I
Y
realized,
me di cuenta
because I'd always achieved what I
que en
wanted,
realidad yo siempre lograba aquello que yo quería.
and I had some big hits in my
Había
life.
tenido golpes muy duros en mi vida.
Like I lost 6 people in 6 months, and all my money and my career,
Todo mi
and
dinero, toda mi profesión.
you know, it was a heavy thing,
Fue una cosa pesada,
but very heavy.
muy pesada.
But I needed something big to shake
Pero
me,
yo necesitaba algo fuerte para que sacudirme.
because I was someone that could just go above
Porque
everything.
yo era alguien que en realidad pasaba por sobre todo.
But I got to a
Pero
point
tenía un punto.
when I started to go in,
Cuando empecé a conectarme internamente,
I realized
me di cuenta
I didn't love myself.
que yo no me amaba a mí.
And I was shocked
Estaba en shock.
because I was successful,
Porque era exitosa.
I was relatively attractive,
Era bastante atractiva.
I had everything I wanted,
Tenía todo lo que yo quería.
and everything I did
Y todo lo que yo hacía
was to prove I had worth,
era en realidad para demostrar que yo valía.
to prove to other
Para
people
demostrar a otras personas
that I had
que
worth,
yo valía.
because I thought I was worth
Yo pensaba que
nothing.
en realidad no valía nada.
And that's what I had to heal.
Fue eso lo que tuve que sanar.
And that's the root stress of
Ese es el
fear.
raíz del miedo.
We do not love ourselves.
Nosotros no nos amamos a
We
nosotros
think there's something
porque
wrong.
creemos que hay algo que está mal.
And there's some incident in everyone's
Y en la
life
vida de cada una de las personas hay siempre un incidente
that creates this,
que crea justamente
creates this separation
crea
from
esta
self.
separación de sí mismo.
Because naturally,
Porque naturalmente
we're joyful,
somos dichosos,
we're free,
somos libres,
we're abundant,
somos abundantes
like children.
como los niños.
But as
Pero
adults,
como adultos
because we adapt so
nos
much
hemos tenido que adaptar tanto a
to what we think people want
para complacer lo que creíamos
or
que la gente
how we
quería,
should be,
o el cómo teníamos que
or to
comportarnos,
receive love,
para recibir el amor,
we end up empty
terminamos vacíos.
because everything's external.
Porque todo está en lo externo.
And when we come home,
Cuando retornamos a casa,
we start to find this
Entonces
power,
empezamos a encontrar este poder,
which is unconditional love.
que es amor incondicional.
And no one told us to look there.
Y claro, nadie nos ha enseñado a buscar ahí.
No one knew what it was.
Nadie sabía lo que era eso.
I didn't
Yo
know.
no lo sabía.
My heart knew,
Mi corazón sí sabía.
but I didn't know.
Yo no sabía.
So once you start to touch on this
Empiezas a tocar esto,
and it starts to
y
grow,
empieza a crecer,
you start to realize
empiezas a dar cuenta
it's the most important thing
que es la cosa más importante
in the whole world,
en el mundo.
because that's where everything comes from.
Exactamente, es de ahí de donde todo emerge.
That's where everything
Es
comes
de
from.
donde todo viene.
The love you give to your
El amor que le das
children,
a tus hijos,
the care you give to your
el cuidado que
friends,
le das a tus amigos,
everything comes from that source,
todo viene de esa fuente.
because it has to start with you.
Tiene que comenzar por uno mismo.
Freedom, abundance,
La abundancia,
security,
la seguridad,
all of that comes from here.
todo eso viene de
And once you find that,
y una vez que lo encuentras,
you're free. Free to be you.
libre para ser tú mismo.
And that's the best thing you can
Y
be.
esa es la mejor cosa que puedas hacer.
So that's like a summary,
Más o
no?
menos un breviario.
I knew I had to wake up.
Yo sabía que yo tenía que despertar.
I had a voice,
Tenía una voz que me lo decía.
you know. If it was the 17th century, they'd lock me up. No?
Seguramente si esto hubiera sido el siglo XVII me hubieran encerrado.
But, you know, I had a voice that was telling
Pero
me,
tenía una voz que me hablaba y me
this
decía,
fear,
"Este miedo,
this
esta
separation,
separación,
it's not real.
no es real".
And when I was a child, I knew
Y
too.
cuando yo era chica también sabía.
Everyone knows.
En realidad,
Everyone knows on some
todos
level
saben en algún nivel
there's something
que
more.
hay algo más.
We don't know what it
No
is.
sabemos en realidad qué es.
That's why the eternal question,
Por
no?
eso la pregunta eterna.
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué?
Why?
Why? Why am I doing
¿Por
this?
qué hago esto?
Why?
¿Por qué?
And finally you look for the
Y
answer.
finalmente uno encuentra las respuestas.
And it's in us, the
Busca y
answer.
encuentra y están dentro.
All the answers are in us.
Todas las respuestas están dentro de nosotros.
Since 3 years of practice, and this of love consciousness. With that, I healed so many things in these 3 years. Valuing myself is still hard. I want to ask you, how is the feeling of love consciousness? My problem is when I look at myself in the mirror, I was told to look at myself, do the facet in the mirror, but I cannot do it. But I'm in that path, to value myself and love myself every day.
You know, it's a funny thing
Es algo gracioso eso.
because it's a very rare person that looks in the mirror
Porque es muy rara la persona que se mira al espejo
and doesn't see 100 things
y
wrong.
no vea un millón de cosas mal.
We all do that.
Todos hacemos eso.
It's very rare
Eso es
that someone looks in the mirror and
muy
thinks,
único que alguien se
wow,
y piense,
aren't I great?
qué maravillosa que soy.
Very rare.
No, eso no existe.
In fact, well, it exists, I'm sure, but
Seguro que existe,
I've never
pero
met that
nunca he
person.
conocido a esa persona.
As we start to let go of our ideas
Salir nuestras ideas
of how we should be,
del cómo tendríamos que ser
and we start just to be
y
ourselves,
empezamos a ser simplemente nosotros mismos.
we start seeing through the eyes of love.
Empezamos a ver a través de los ojos del amor.
And it starts initially with us,
Comienza al principio con uno mismo.
and then it extends to the
Y
world.
después se va extendiendo al mundo.
Because the only thing that separates us from
La
perfection
única cosa que nos separa de la perfección
is judgment.
son los juicios.
And
Y
judgment
los juicios
lives here,
vienen en la cabeza
and
y
freedom
la libertad
lives here.
vive en el corazón.
And we start to see through the eyes of love.
Vamos a ver a través de los ojos del amor.
And we've been taught
Se nos ha enseñado
that that's not reality.
que eso no es la realidad.
This is reality.
Esta es la realidad.
The criticism, the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, all these ideas.
Todas esas ideas.
But they're not true.
Pero eso no es verdad.
They're ideas.
Son solo ideas.
When we start to see from here,
Comenzamos a ver desde aquí,
we start to see the beauty
a ver la belleza.
in everything.
En todo.
And that's when we know we're starting to love
Es aquí
ourselves.
cuando empezamos a ver que nos amamos a nosotros mismos.
And for those of you that just learned,
Y para aquellos que acaban de aprender.
I'm sure Sati was telling you about the window of perception, no?
Nadia les hablaba de la ventana de percepción.
And it's full of rubbish.
Está llena de basura.
Because as children,
Porque como niños
We're so sensitive. The shortest word, and we take it to heart. Like everything affects us. Our parents fight, and we think it's our fault. Like we're very violent with ourselves from a very early age. And it starts to put spots on our window, and then they're confirmed externally until we don't see the world as it is. And men as ourselves, we start to see what's wrong. But when we start to see from here, we start to see the beauty and perfection. Our unique beauty and perfection. And that's what's important. And that's just a process of the expansion of love consciousness. It starts with us and it moves out. We start to see it everywhere. And it's real. It's something real.
Okay. I wanted to ask about responsibility. I am that. Irradiating love to all creation. That facet. No, you know it best. For me, responsibility is to do the things that have been told. Follow duties, no? All the things have to be done. The obligations, to be responsible with me and the rest. That's the meaning of responsibility for me. So I cannot understand the I'm that irradiating love to creation. So I say, I'm that, I'm responsible. But I don't understand all the things that comes afterwards. Can you talk about it?
Yeah. Sure. Okay, I'm going to relieve you. Because until you get enlightened, no one understands it. Okay. The thing is, when I heal the judgments with myself, the judgments externally fall. They don't exist anymore. Once I embrace every human aspect of myself, everything external that's based in judgment leaves. On responsibility, I am that. How I respond to that is my responsibility. Because if I am without judgment, I perceive love. Love in evolution. So it's way beyond paying the bills, no? It has nothing to do with that. But it also has an aspect. My evolution of consciousness is my responsibility. And that directly affects everything. Why? Because I am that. There's nothing other than that. We're all one. We've all always been one. And there's nothing but that. Okay, now I know that doesn't clarify. But not one of the facets makes sense. You have to experience them. You have to become the facet. So the first four, on some level, with the exception of perfection, you sort of get it, no? Giving praise to this moment, gratitude for your human experience, finding the unconditional love, and looking for unity. But the word perfection is like it like annoys you a little bit, no? Like, I don't see the perfection in that. So you start by healing that. And the facet you're talking about is in the fifth portal, no? And so it's a very advanced facet. Yeah, but they're all consequential of healing. They're all a consequence of your healing. And at some moment it'll be like, oh, now I get it. Or you'll have glimpses where you get it. But it's not going to come from here. It's going to come from here. Oh, now I understand. So you have to let go of what's not that to start experiencing what is that. But you'll have glimpses all the time until it becomes your permanent experience.
Hi Isha, Daniela from Chile. Sé que eres de Chile. My question is about something I'm experiencing now. Always identified with my profession, with my doing.
What do you do?
A professor of mathematics. And then I had a baby. I had two babies close to each other. And then I found it that the objectives I didn't accomplish. My time was going away with my children. And then I started, my work passed to be in second plane. And then the stress, the anguish, the anxiety, many things. If you can talk about how this method can help me to work with that anxiety in time. With the time, I don't have enough time.
You know, you've just had you've got children, yeah? So this system's going to help you so much. Because you're very exigente, no? It's like you've got everything organized. Like a good mathematician. And it has a timeline. And you're suffering the timeline. But you put it. And now you can't do it. You're suffering. But that's an addiction. The suffering's an addiction. You have to change. And the system's for that. It'll teach you to be in the present moment, to enjoy what you're doing, to not worry so much about the future. So it'll start to unfold. You'll give more quality time to the children. And you'll be able to organize yourself better. But most importantly, is you'll stop being violent. Because you identify so rigidly with your intellect and your achievement. And you have to let that go. Because that's not who you are. That's just an aspect of you. You're much more than that. But you're still identifying with the old. And you have to identify with the new. Now you're a mother. How old are the kids? There you go. Now you have to start identifying with this. You're a mother. You're giving to the kids. And you're organizing yourself, but you can't do it like you were doing it before. And you're very sad, you know, because you're violent with yourself. Do you see how violent you are? Yes? Or no? Yeah. Can the 1-year-old count to 100 yet?
¿O todavía no?
No. What's wrong with it?
Pero ¿qué está mal ahí? ¿Qué cosa?
But you see, you're not like that with the babies, are you?
¿Viste? No eres así con los bebés.
Only with you.
Solo contigo misma.
So be more nurturing with yourself.
A ser más nutriente contigo, más paciente.
And you need to let all this go here.
Y necesitas todo esto que sientes, soltarlo, dejarlo ir aquí.
Yeah?
¿Sí?
Hi, Isha. I'm Claudia. I'm in Germany, live in Germany. And the system through a friend and a colleague at work, I had it. She taught me a little bit the system. And we are very sincere, both of us. No, very close. It was a situation with her where I thought I was expressing, and she told me, that's a judgment you have. So there, I said, can you explain the difference? Ask Isha. So I had a long trip to come and ask you.
You know what? You need to go back and ask her. Okay. You know what? Everything's a judgment.
En realidad todo es.
When we start growing,
Cuando comenzamos a crecer,
it doesn't matter if it's a
no
judgment.
importa si es un juicio.
We have to express it.
Tenemos que expresarlo, no verlo.
And it doesn't matter what it
Y
is,
no importa de qué se trata.
because everything's a judgment.
Porque todo en realidad es un juicio.
And sometimes our judgments
Nuestros juicios
are based in good
están
ideas
basados en buenas ideas.
or humanitarian
O
ideas.
ideas humanitarias.
But if there's an
Pero
attachment
si hubiera un apego
to being right,
a tener razón,
it's a judgment.
es un juicio.
And that's okay.
Y está bien.
You have to let go of the charge,
Tienes que soltar la carga.
not the idea.
No la idea.
But you'll find that once the charge
Pero vas
goes,
a encontrarte que cuando la carga sobre eso se
that
va,
fanaticism
ese fanatismo,
or that
esa
need to be
esa
right
necesidad de tener razón,
leaves.
se va.
And that's a great freedom.
Y esa es una libertad, ¿no?
Because people attach to their
Porque las
ideas.
personas se apegan a sus ideas.
They identify so strongly with them,
Se identifican tan fuerte con ellos.
they go to war.
Ya estaban a la guerra.
They kill each
Se
other.
matan los unos a los otros.
We've done it all our
Lo
lives.
hemos hecho eso.
Our ideas.
Nuestras ideas.
This is good,
Esto
this is
es-
bad.
Esto es malo.
So our idea is good
Entonces, ¿son las ideas buenas?
as long as there's no attachment.
Siempre y cuando no hubiera apego.
Yes.
Sí.
If there's
Pero
attachment,
si hay apego,
they can become like
se
bombs.
pueden transformar como bombas.
So we need to identify with something bigger,
Tenemos que identificarnos con algo mayor.
and that's the love,
Y eso es el amor.
because it's a one permanent.
Porque es permanente.
It's one thing that's
Es una
permanent,
cosa que es permanente.
because ideas change.
Porque las ideas son cambiantes.
So
Entonces,
if there's a charge,
si hay una carga,
it's a judgment,
es un juicio.
and that's okay.
Y está bien.
You just have to express it, express it,
Tienes que
express it, express it
expresar
until it goes.
hasta que se va.
And with the babies,
Y con los estudiantes bebés,
you have to express everything.
ustedes tienen que expresar todo.
Whether you think it's politically correct, politically incorrect, if it's a judgment about something stupid, it doesn't matter. You're allowed to look stupid. Be a victim. But move everything until these things are not important. Yeah? And that's what's important. Just to liberate all the stress. So maybe it was a judgment. But it doesn't matter. Everything's a judgment, really. Was it about her?
Era sobre ella.
Oh, obvio.
Obvio.
That's a judgment.
Ese es un juicio.
My question is, how can I move the stress I have nowadays I adore my mom, but of taking care of her in this moment where I got into a depression. The depression that you cannot look, you cannot breathe. follows a medical treatment. I continued doing things in my life, but in this moment I'm tired. Since a month ago, driving, I fall asleep. And I woke up in a heat. Since that moment, I cannot recover. I don't know how to move forward. My life is upside down and I don't have any more energy. I'm super confused, very confused.
Okay. You know, it's great that you're here,
Buenísimo que te hayas venido hasta aquí.
because this time is just for you.
Estos días van a ser para
You can
ti.
sit down. But the thing is this,
Pero el tema es,
you have to give to yourself,
tú te tienes que dar a ti.
because you've hit a limit.
Porque llegaste al límite.
You're looking after your mum.
Estás cuidando a tu mami.
She's got terminal cancer.
Tiene cáncer terminal.
That's in itself shocking.
Eso ya es choqueante.
And you're upset and you're scared
Sientes
and
mal y tienes un susto
you're losing your
por
mother,
eso.
no?
Estás perdiendo a tu mamá.
And you want to be the most loving and caring,
Ser la más amorosa, cuidándola.
but you're exhausted.
Estás exhausto ya.
So you have to be gentle with you.
Tú tienes que ser gentil contigo.
And you have to unify a lot.
Y tienes que unificar muchísimo.
And you have to go up those stairs a lot.
Y tienes que aquí subir esas escaleras para ir a expresarme.
And move. Because it's the stress to
Porque
here
tienes el estrés hasta aquí
that's making you
y
exhausted.
eso te está agotando.
Because you're holding it.
Porque te lo estás guardando.
You're
todo,
trying to hold
te
everything.
estás tratando de sostener.
And you can't.
Y no se puede.
So you just have to really take advantage of this
Tienes que
time.
aprovechar al máximo estos días aquí.
Just unify
Solo unificar
and express.
y expresar, mover.
And when you go home, do the
Así cuando vas
same.
para casa, sigues también haciendo eso.
You've got to give time to you
Tienes que dar tiempo a ti.
and see where you're trying to run
Y
away
ver en qué parte estás tratando como de escaparte
of what's happening.
de aquello, de sentir aquello que está sucediendo.
I know you're conscious of what's
Sé que
happening,
estás súper consciente de lo que sucede,
but
pero
emotionally,
emocionalmente
you're not handling it.
no lo estás manejando.
You're trying to,
Estás tratando como de apaciguarlo
and it's overwhelming.
y ya te está superando.
Hmm? You'll see, you'll leave here much
Ya vas a
better.
ver cuando te vayas de aquí, vas a sentirte mejor,
Much better.
mucho mejor.
I learned the system last year. Few days after I had an accident. For me, it was like to open a gate that pushed me into moving things. All this time with the experience on the chair, with the unification, really have been healing a lot of things that I have in. So to be here at the center is really very moving. It was hard for me. I didn't know if I was going to be able to. I wanted to ask you. I feel there is still something very, very deep I have to heal, but I resist. I feel there is a resistance within. Even if I gave myself lots of love, I don't mistreat myself so much. But I would like to continue healing that is much deeper, and to be able to accept myself and continue living and accepting my present with whatever I am experiencing.
It's like you're doing amazing.
Parecería que estás haciéndolo increíblemente.
But amazing. This is all a consequence of a year ago.
Todo es una consecuencia. Este año sucedió. Todo esto el año pasado, hace un año.
Wow. You know, you just need to go deeper
Solo necesitas conectarte profundo.
because you know.
Porque tú sabes.
You say there's something more.
Tú sabes, tú sientes que hay algo más.
Well, you just have to have the openness
Tienes que tener la disposición, la apertura.
and it will happen.
Y lo vas a ver. Lo
But
vas a
don't be
poder.
forcing it,
Pero
no?
no lo fuerces.
Don't force
No
it.
lo fuerces.
Just allow it to
Solo
unfold.
permite que se vaya abriendo, desenvolviendo.
But you have a lot of wisdom, no?
Pero tienes mucha sabiduría en ti,
Hmm?
¿no?
Qué bueno.
Perdón. About kids and teenagers. This is my 8th mega on a row. And this year, I came with my daughter, 13 years old. Hola. And I thought it was like the moment for her to come. I didn't want to bring them before, but now she's grown up. I decided to come with her. And yesterday, when we were in the seminar with Satya, I went to do it again to be with her. Somebody asked, first, why did you decided to come here? She said, because you brought me. But why did you want to come? Because you have a great time, and I want to have a great time too. And then they ask, what do you want to achieve in your life? And she didn't know what to answer. Don't you want to get happiness? I said, I am happy. I'm fine as I am. Even if I loved what she said, that she feels happy, I find that is great. I was thinking, which is the age of the moment or the maturity you need to learn this system, just to work with it. At home, they knew the facet, and I tried to guide them with their emotions. I have another one, 9 years old, but I would like to know when exactly to bring her what it's about. Okay.
Okay, so we start with them at 4. Why? Because at 4, they are the system. And then we sustain that. Because at 4 or 3, they are the system. They live in the moment, they don't judge themselves, they feel their emotions. And then we start to sustain that, teaching them to communicate with each other, the whole education system. Okay, and they can start then, using one facet and starting to have exposure to the system, just to sustain that perception. We have lots of children that started very young. And once it's instilled, it's an incredible support for them. And it doesn't mean that they don't have a normal life or do things that make them feel bad or get stressed or have boyfriend problems or... Yeah, but they have something in the base that gives them security. And that's a big difference. Because if I think back, when I was young, I was lost. Really. You know, I was looking out, not understanding anything. But if children have this internal solidarity, it's an incredible freedom. So as soon as possible. And to be exposed to this too. To see it's okay to move your emotions, to express how you feel. All of those things are important. And it gives the kids security. Emotional security, not just this capacity to achieve and do. I could do all of that. But inside there's insecurity. And that's what we have to deal with, that internal insecurity. Yeah? Great. I'm glad you're happy. Gracias.